So what are my favorite things about being a teacher? Man, you're gonna hate this answer. It's corny, but here it goes. My favorite thing about being a teacher is the students. So hang with me as I explain more about that, but let's cue that intro and get this video going. So let's be honest, there's other things besides students that make this job good. I mean, the pay is fairly decent. I'm quite happy with my pay. The summer's off, that's very nice. All those holidays off, those are nice. The hours are pretty good. I mean, there are a lot of good things about being a teacher. But what makes it all worthwhile is the student. I mean, that's why you get into teaching, is because of the students. Now, if you're considering a career in teaching, please pay attention to other things. Those are important. But if you don't have that love for students and making a difference, then this isn't for you. But if you do have that, man, this is the job. But for me, the most exciting thing is not necessarily seeing what happens that year with the students, but seeing what happens to the students after they leave my classroom, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road. But let me tell you a story of one student had. His name was Frankie, and it goes like this. I remember, I think this happened about 2 years ago, and I was walking to a Starbucks to get my favorite drink, which is a Frappuccino, a caramel Frappuccino. I mean, this doesn't sound like a teacher, but I don't like coffee. I just don't like coffee. I mean, how can I be a teacher and not like coffee? But I don't like coffee, but I do like Frappuccinos because, come on, they're not really coffee. They're more or less like a shake. So I like my caramel Frappuccino. So as I walk into this Starbucks, I basically go ahead and do my thing and order my venti caramel Frappuccino. And I go to get it and everything else, pay for it, and then I'm waiting for my Frappuccino. And then somewhere behind me, I hear a young man go, "Mr. Vigil?" I turn around and I look and I say, "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, it's you probably don't remember me, but it's Frankie." I go, Frankie. Now you gotta understand, I got 150 students a year, been teaching 18 years. I'm not gonna do the math, but that's a lot of students. And plus, that's not my strong suit, is remembering students' names. But this student, something clicked. Like, Frankie, what's your last name? And he told me his last name. I'm like, oh my gosh, I do remember you. I do. And then we started to talk. And then this is what he said. And this has made my day. And this has actually made my years. This was the story that he told me. And his story goes like this, that when I was teaching in high school, I was in 10th grade. And I remember I spent about 1 day, 2 days teaching them something that was off topic. And what that was I was learning at that moment in my life about Dave Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki, which has to do with finances, right? And so I told the students what I was learning. I explained to them, some of them are paying attention, some are not, some are interested, some aren't. You just never really know. And so I was telling them exactly everything, and I told them a book about Robert Kiyosaki. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I said, hey, if you guys ever get a chance, go ahead and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It made a difference for me, and I really like it, and I think you might like it too. All right, that's what teachers do. Teachers plant the seeds, and you just never know who's going to water it. You just never know where it's going to grow. Sometimes it grows into something great, sometimes it doesn't. So fast forward from that moment to about 5 years forward. This gentleman, actually maybe a little more than 70, he's about 23 at this time period, Frankie, starts telling me how that day when I was talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he actually picked up the book, not that year, but I think the year after, actually when he got done with school, or I think he actually picked up the book when he left school. So 10th grade, I tell him about it, and then he does his thing, and graduates, and then he goes into the military. And he serves in the military. And while he's in the military, he picks up that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because of something I told him 2 to 3 years beforehand. Isn't that crazy? He picks up the book, he reads it, he's inspired by it, and then while all his other military friends are out there doing what they do in the military, spending the money, he starts to adopt the principles in that book. He starts to put money aside, and before you know it, he starts making investments. And then when he's done with the military, get this, he's done with the military, he has enough money put aside that he can actually implement what the whole book is about, which is about investing and creative passive income. And that blew my mind. He's telling me this stuff. I think, oh my gosh, how did I spend one day talking about this? But this one thing I said in one day changed the rest of his life. Isn't that powerful? Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. And that is what teaching is all about. Teaching is about making those differences. Once again, you plant the seed. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know who's going to water later on. You don't know if it's going to blossom or not. But when it does, and you find out about it, oh man, you can't have a better profession than that. So I asked Frankie, I said, Frankie, what are you doing these days? And he told me, he said, you know what? I am doing real estate. He was a real estate agent. He used his military experience, his knowledge about finances, he used his inspiration from the book, and he put it all together to create a real estate business. And so now he's a real estate agent in the town I teach in here, and from what I know, he's doing great. But once again, you just never know how it's going to blossom. All right, with that said, remember, together we can make our lemon days into lemonade weeks and stay zesty.